Hey everyone, welcome back to my astrology channel. Today we're going to talk about Mars in your seventh house. To understand that, let's first talk about what is Mars. Okay, so what is Mars? Mars is, you can take Mars as a commander of the universe. So if Sun is the king and Moon is the queen, then Mars is a commander of the universe. So Mars is raw action, it's a warrior. Mars is going to go and get that action done, get that job done via the action. Okay, it doesn't think about the consequences, it just likes to get the job done. So, Mars is also courage, Mars is aggression. So, if you have Mars sitting in the first house, that person may be very aggressive. We're going to talk about more qualities of that, but I wanted you to understand what Mars is. All right. So it's a warrior, it's a commander, it's aggressive. It can get temperamental very easily. By it, the native who has this placement can get aggressive very easily, can get angered very easily. Then they don't know what they're doing with their actions when they get angry, because commander's job, the warrior's job, is basically to go out there and do the war. They don't think who is getting killed, who's getting hurt, whose emotions are at line. So that's kind of like your Mars. Okay, and now let's talk about the three different aspects of Mars. Okay, to understand how and what Mars does on the house, we want to understand Mars and then the aspects. So Mars has three different aspects. First aspect is going to be on the fourth house from where Mars sits. The second aspect is going to be on the seventh house from where Mars sits. And the third aspect is going to be on the eighth house from where Mars sits. Why does Mars have the fourth aspect? Mars, because it's a warrior, and the fourth house in the Kalpurush Kundali is of the house of the home and the mother. Your homeland, your motherland. It's a house of happiness. So, warriors are supposed to protect your homeland, your motherland. So, Mars has that special aspect that no other planet has, the fourth aspect, to protect its motherland from where it's sitting. The second aspect is on the seventh house from where it's sitting. Every planet has a seventh aspect, and as I always say, it's kind of like give and take. You give and you get. So Mars by nature is a malefic. It's a natural malefic. So if you give that house malefic, you're going to get back malefic many folds. Just like I mentioned in my Jupiter videos, the seventh aspect, if you give it love, you get back love many folds. So that's kind of the seventh aspect, because it's a straight up 100% aspect on it, drishti, because it's the house is right in front of you. You can't miss it. You're going to look at it. So the next aspect is the eighth house. Why do we have the eighth aspect? Why does Mars have it? Well, in the Kalpurush Kundali, Mars rules the first and the eighth house. So Mars has a special aspect of watching over his own house. Okay, so eighth house is Scorpio, but whatever sign it's placed, it doesn't matter when Mars is aspecting it, because that's going to be the eighth aspect. No other planet has the eighth aspect. So Mars has the fourth and that eighth aspect separate from all the other planets. Jupiter has the 5, 7, 9. Mars has the 4, 7, and 8. Now the eighth aspect, what does Mars do over there? So eighth is his own house. What do you do when you look at your own house? You're going to try to kill off the enemies of that house. So for instance, let's say that eighth aspect ends up being on the fourth house. Now the fourth house is the house of happiness, as I just mentioned. Now Mars is going to want to kill the enemies of the happiness for that native. So that's good. It may seem not good while it's happening, but at the end of the day, that's what Mars' goal is. So now that you understood what Mars is, what are the aspects, let's go into what Mars does when it sits in your houses. Let's talk about Mars in your seventh house. What is seventh house? Seventh house is your house of partners. It's your spouse, it's your life partner, it's your business partner. It is also your business itself. It's your mediating skills, etc., etc. So you'll see all of that from seventh house. Now, let's talk about Mars in your seventh house. So, Mars in your seventh house in Vedic astrology gives you a Mangal dosh. What that means is say that your marriage should be delayed, okay, because you have Mars in your seventh house. Why do they say that? Well, Mars in your seventh house could give you an aggressive partner. Okay, your partner may have a lot of underlying aggression towards life, towards you. And if your partner also perhaps in their horoscope has Mars in their first house or in their seventh house, that could give the marriage a very aggressive kind of a marriage. So Mars in your seventh house could perhaps have some aggression. Your partner may have aggression, and the back and forth between you may be a little more aggressive than you'd like it to be. And even your business partner, your business, the kind of business that you're doing could be on the aggressive side as well. That's what you'll see with Mars. Now, again, we want to see where the dispositors are sitting, where the lords of the homes are sitting as well. Let's talk about the fourth aspect of Mars, of this Mars. The fourth aspect of this Mars is on your house 10. What is house 10? House 10 is the style of your work, the type of your workplace, what do you do, etc. So when the fourth aspect is on your 10th house, what does Mars do here? This is Mars's homeland. Mars feels at home here. First of all, Mars is exalted in house 10 or in Capricorn. And so this is where Mars feel like it has the most ego. It's being recognized the most in that house. So in this particular chart, this person, in addition to having perhaps an aggressive spouse, or maybe they are spending so much time at their work because they feel good, they feel great when they're working in their workplace, that they're not paying attention to their spouse. And the spouse is becoming more and more aggressive because they're not able to get that time of the day, right? So this is how you can connect both of them, that, hey, perhaps you need to take a step back and give more time to your spouse. Okay, perhaps that's the reason. Or perhaps you have a conversation with your spouse to not be as aggressive. Perhaps you are also becoming aggressive at home because you'd rather be at work, or you are having to deal with people wanting your time everywhere, etc. So that's the fourth aspect of Mars on your 10th house. The next aspect of your Mars is on your 7th house. So you see, it's what you give is what you get. If you give yourself, so when Mars is aspecting your first house, Mars is aggression, it is going to bring that aggression in you too. So if you get that hot-headedness, that hot temper, what do you bring out? If you bring out the same temper back to your 7th house, now your 7th house is going to give you worse temper back. And if your spouse is going to give you temper, you're going to give worse temper back. So that's where this kind of a back and forth scenario between the 7th house doesn't work out well. And this could be an issue that you really need to watch out for your temper and really have a sit down conversations with your spouse if you have this kind of a placement, if you have Mars in the 7th house. And if you have other planets in the 7th house, in addition to Mars, like Rahu, now that will increase this problem many folds. Now, the spouse here, it would be best for the spouse to to try to control their temper, to try to go into spirituality, to try to read books, to get their aggression towards other things. And that could really save the relationship. One of my clients had this placement, and the spouse turned to spirituality. She started doing meditation. She transformed herself just completely, and the relationship, my God, just became so much better. I mean, they still tell me that this was the best thing for the relationship. That's a really tough Mars placement to have if you're not seeking remedies for it. Now let's talk about the 8th aspect of Mars, which is going to be on your house 2. Okay, so like I said, the 8th aspect is usually the one of transformation, but it's also the one that you struggle with the most in your life. So this particular person is going to struggle with your family. What is house 2? House 2 is your family. It's your speech. It's your mouth, what you're putting in, what you're eating. It is also your values and your wealth. So having an eighth house or eighth aspect on your second house, you feel like your entire life has been a struggle in terms of what are you speaking? What do you want to say? Perhaps the speech has not been good. Perhaps the relationship with your family has not been good due to your speech and or due to their speech as well. The values you got impacted because of the speech. You perhaps you're not eating right. Perhaps your family doesn't eat right either. Okay, you may belong from a food industry, from a hospitality industry, and that business may be suffering. Perhaps you open up a food industry, a food restaurant. You know, it is also your values. It is also your wealth. So perhaps you're having issues in creating wealth most of your life, and you have a lot of trouble. So again, watch out for that ego, watch out for that aggression in your tone, and you could get good relationship with your family. You could have a great relationship with yourself. You could have a great relationship with people at work, with your spouse, as long as you kind of watch out for your speech. And also, when you're focused on your work so much, maybe you could watch out to pay attention to other people in your family as well. So, if you have this placement, do go ahead and write down in the comments on how well you can relate to this. And please subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. And also, we do personal consultations. So, reach out to us if you'd like to get your own personal horoscope read. Thank you so much for watching.